These musicians touched millions with their songs, but somehow their deaths went largely unnoticed by everyone except their most diehard fans. Alternative rock band Blind Melon got swept up in the massive Seattle grunge wave that overtook the music scene in the early 1990s. Their single No Rain put them on the map in a big way, hitting number 1 in the rock charts and taking over MTV with a quirky music video featuring a dancing girl in a bee outfit. Unfortunately, frontman Shannon Hoon had a hard time adjusting to their sudden fame. He retreated from the spotlight and turned to drugs, and even 2 stints in rehab weren't able to help him kick the habit. He died in 1995 in New Orleans from a heart attack brought about by an overdose of cocaine. He was only 28. At the time, Blind Melon was in the midst of a tour. 2 months after the release of their second album, Soup, Hoon was survived by his girlfriend Lisa and their daughter Nico Blue, who was only about 5 months old at the time. No band embodied the spirit of the early days of punk rock more than the Ramones. Formed in New York City in 1974 and led by singer Joey Ramone, the original lineup consisted of Dee Dee Ramone on bass, Johnny Ramone on guitar, and Tommy Ramone on drums. They didn't generate a ton of radio airplay, but they were hugely influential thanks to rapid-fire hits like I Wanna Be Sedated and Blitzkrieg Bop. Interpersonal clashes within the band led to a frequently changing roster, with the Ramones ultimately playing their final show in 1996 in Hollywood. All 4 founding members have since tragically died. Joey passed away in 2001 of lymphatic cancer at the age of 49. Dee Dee died the following year of a heroin overdose at 50. Johnny died of prostate cancer in 2004 at 55, and Tommy died in 2014 at the age of 65 after undergoing treatment for bile duct cancer. Formed in Liverpool in 1980, Dead or Alive was at the forefront of Britain's new romantic movement, a synth-pop new wave subgenre that also included acts like Culture Club and Duran Duran. Dead or Alive frontman Pete Burns built on the androgyny of artists like David Bowie and the New York Dolls from the previous decade, especially in the music video for their biggest hit, You Spin Me Round Like a Record. As the 80s gave way to the 90s, the band dwindled to just Burns and drummer Steve Coy, who slugged it out until their final studio album of new material arrived in 2000. Burns subsequently found fame as a reality TV star when he joined the cast of Celebrity Big Brother in 2006. He appeared on other British reality shows and made headlines in 2015 for less glamorous reasons when he was evicted for being behind on his rent. Burns was also candid about his numerous cosmetic surgery procedures, reportedly more than 300.
It's just body adornment and it's a form of expression.
Some of those surgeries led to infections that required further intervention, and Burns wound up with blood clots in his lungs, legs, and heart. He died in 2016 at the age of 57 from a heart attack. After spending 2 years as a New York City beat cop, Edward Mahoney renamed himself Eddie Money and embarked on a music career. He attracted the attention of legendary promoter Bill Graham, who became his manager, and got his big break in 1978 with the single Baby Hold On, which he followed up with 2 Tickets to Paradise. Nearly a decade later, he released what became his highest-charting single, 1986's Take Me Home Tonight. Alas, Money wasn't immune to the temptations that brought down so many other rockers. As he admitted to Ultimate Classic Rock in 2019, I had a drinking problem because alcoholism is hereditary and I'm an Irishman, so I was always knocking down a lot of vodka. And of course, they said cocaine wasn't addicting back in the 80s, which was a bunch of bullshit. So I had my problems with substance abuse and stuff like that. During one night of excessive drinking in 1980, Money added a barbiturate to the mix and fell into a coma. When he awoke, the sciatic nerve in his leg was severely damaged. His doctors told him that he wouldn't walk again, but he proved them wrong, though he did end up with a pronounced limp.
It put me in a lot of shock too, you know.
In his later years, Money made his way to reality TV, starring in the AXS series Real Money in 2018. In August of the following year, he announced that he'd been diagnosed with stage 4 esophageal cancer. Less than a month later, he died at the age of 70. Blending traditional sounds with punk rock, the Pogues broke through in 1985 with their second album, the memorably titled Rum, Sodomy, and the Lash. They're probably best remembered for their venomous 1987 Christmastime song Fairy Tale of New York, with frontman Shane MacGowan joined by singer Kirsty MacColl. While MacColl wasn't an official permanent member, she toured with the band after the success of Fairy Tale. MacColl had previously experienced her own success as a solo artist, and she was also in high demand as a backup singer. Meanwhile, MacGowan maintained his association with the Pogues over the ensuing decades through several breakups and reunions, but both of them have since passed away. MacColl died at age 41 in a boating accident while vacationing in Mexico in 2000, while MacGowan died of pneumonia in 2023 at the age of 65. As the frontman and driving force behind heavy metal band Quiet Riot, Kevin DuBrow led the group to huge success with their 1983 hit Come On Feel the Noise. On the strength of that single, their debut album Metal Health hit number 1, the first heavy metal album ever to do so. In November 2007, the band's former bassist Kelly Garney became concerned when he hadn't heard back from DuBrow, so he reached out to his 2 girlfriends who also hadn't heard from him. A paramedic then broke into DuBrow's home and found that the singer had died in his bed. The cause of death was ruled to be an accidental overdose of cocaine, a sleeping pill, painkillers, and alcohol. He was only 52. Jonathan Melvoin is best known as the original keyboardist for the Smashing Pumpkins, but his musical legacy and that of his family extend far beyond that. His father Mike was also a keyboardist and a studio musician, as well as a member of the legendary Wrecking Crew, a group of musicians who played on some of the biggest hits of the 1960s and 70s. And Jonathan's sister Wendy was one half of Wendy and Lisa, who were also members of Prince's band The Revolution in the early 1980s. In July 1996, Melvoin and Smashing Pumpkins drummer Jimmy Chamberlin embarked on a night of hard partying in New York City while on tour. Heroin was involved and both of them passed out. Chamberlin survived, but Melvoin didn't. A toxicology report attributed his death to both the heroin and alcohol. He was only 34. Billy Corgan fired Chamberlin from the band a couple of days later and immediately started looking for replacements to continue their tour.
We still wanted to continue on with the tour no matter what anybody thought.
When Courtney Love put together her band Hole, she selected Kristen Pfaff as the bass player. Pfaff would go on to play on their first 2 albums, but she was tragically found dead in the bathtub of her Seattle home in June 1994, just 2 months after the suicide of Love's husband, Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain. Pfaff was only 27. Initial reports stated that her purse contained syringes and drug paraphernalia. Her friends told police that she'd been using heroin, while a rep for Hole's record label revealed that she'd recently gone to rehab. However, mystery continues to surround Pfaff's death, with some believing that she was actually murdered. That theory emerged from Ian Halperin's book Love and Death, The Murder of Kurt Cobain, which claimed that Cobain's death was also a homicide. In the book, Pfaff's mother Janet maintained that her daughter was not using drugs after returning from rehab. She asked police to open a murder investigation, but they declined due to a lack of evidence. Keith Relf was once backed by a holy trinity of British guitar heroes. As lead singer of the Yardbirds, he was accompanied by the guitar stylings of Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page. After the Yardbirds split up in 1968, Page went on to form a new band, initially called the New Yardbirds before becoming the iconic Led Zeppelin. Meanwhile, Relf founded his own new band, a far less successful prog rock outfit called Renaissance. He then formed another since-forgotten group known as Armageddon. In 1974, Relf was playing an electric guitar in the cellar of his home with his foot resting on a metal gas pipe. His guitar, which was plugged into an amplifier, wasn't grounded, and a high-voltage current of electricity fatally surged into his body. He was reportedly found by his 8-year-old son. He was only 33. After a stint playing the bass for British prog rock band King Crimson, John Wetton co-founded the supergroup Asia in 1982, whose self-titled debut was the biggest-selling album of the year. With Wetton also handling lead vocals, the band released radio-friendly hits like Soul Survivor and the mega smash Heat of the Moment. After a career that lasted more than 50 years, Wetton died in his sleep from colon cancer in 2017 at the age of 67. His legacy continues to live on in the likes of the Aurora Project, a cover band dedicated to him. Wetton was also honored with a 2023 tribute concert, featuring such musicians as Yes alum Rick Wakeman, Genesis guitarist Steve Hackett, and Wetton's Asia bandmate Jeff Downs. As a guitarist for the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, Mike Bloomfield was a pioneer in popularizing electric blues in the early 1960s. They soon caught the attention of Bob Dylan, who handpicked Bloomfield to play during the sessions for Highway 61 Revisited, his groundbreaking 1965 album that melded folk and electric rock.
He said he wanted to show me how the blues were played.
Dylan then tapped Butterfield's band to back him up for his controversial first-ever electric performance at the 1965 Newport Folk Festival. Bloomfield went on to form his own band in 1967 called the Electric Flag. They broke up in 1969, but then reformed in 1974 to release a second album, which sadly attracted little attention. Bloomfield should have been one of the biggest guitarists of his generation, but his success was hampered by his substance abuse. In 1981, he was found dead in a car on a San Francisco street, his body having likely been dumped there by his drug dealer. He was ruled an accidental overdose from heroin and cocaine. He was only 37. Survivor only had one big single, but it was a doozy. Written as a theme song for 1982's Rocky III, Eye of the Tiger became a monster hit thanks in large part to its instantly recognizable opening guitar riff. Survivor's original singer was Dave Bickler, but he was forced to leave the band at the height of their success after surgery for throat polyps. He was replaced by Jimi Jamison, who'd previously been fronting the heavy metal band Cobra. Jamison remained Survivor's singer until 1989, and then he was offered a spot as the frontman for Deep Purple, but he was forced to turn that down because he was contractually obligated to promote the solo album he just released. Then in the 90s, confusion reigned and lawsuits flew as two versions of Survivor toured, one fronted by Jamison and the other by Bickler. In 2013, the band settled its legal issues and hit the road with both singers on the mic. The following year, Jamison died at the age of 63. His death was initially attributed to a heart attack that was later determined to be caused by a stroke, with methamphetamine intoxication a contributing factor.